What's up, everybody? I'm the Mangoose. You are awesome, and today I'm going to attempt to give you a complete breakdown of Kingshunt, the tower defense Dark Souls MOBA game. That's the first thing you need to consider if you play Kingshunt. It's like nothing else you've ever played. If you come at this as if it's a straight up MOBA, you're just going to end up frustrated. If I absolutely had to compare this to a game, I would say it's more akin to Gigantic than anything. The second thing you need to keep in mind is that this game is in very early alpha. The most recent test was focused on stress testing the servers. The heroes and game modes of Kingshunt are not yet balanced, and the combat lacks, I don't know, weight? There's a certain chonkiness missing to your hits that I guess I'm sure it'll come with polish as the development progresses. If you keep these two things in mind, the game is a lot of fun due to the ability to outplay your opponents through either strategic manipulation of the battlefield or fast-paced tactical team fights. Today I'm going to attempt to explain how the game is played, the various heroes you can choose from, and the item system. If you're interested in Kingshunt, please take a look at the social links provided in the description below, and if you enjoy the video, please hit that like button for me. At its heart, Kingshunt is a tower defense game. You join 4 other people on a 2-lane map, and you're tasked with either defeating or defending the Guardian within a time limit. There are 2 phases to the map. If you kill the first Guardian on attack, you still need to kill another further down the line, and if you can successfully keep the Guardian alive as the defender in any phase, you win. Let's first talk about the defending team. As the defenders, you use utility tokens to build a variety of structures in order to defend your lanes. For now, these structures include a long-range bombardment tower, a short-range bombardment tower, a healing tower, and a barricade. The towers can only be placed in certain areas of the map. While there isn't much indication of where these areas are, it's fairly obvious from the terrain. You also can't place towers too close to each other or on top of a destroyed turret. Each structure has a different cost and varies in their effectiveness. You can earn utility tokens by defeating minions, through player kills, or they just kind of accrue over time. A majority of your time spent as a defender will be dedicated to stopping the attacking team from destroying your towers, while using barricades as kind of a stopgap measure to prevent minions from getting to your Guardian. And it also kind of groups them up for easier cleanup. Let's take a look at the towers. The short-range towers cost 8 utility tokens, and they cover a wide portion of the lane. When placing either bombardment tower, you can make adjustments to where the tower will be exactly and the portion of the lane it will cover. The tower's effectiveness is indicated both by color and by the actual percentage of lane coverage. The long-range towers cost 6 utility tokens and don't cover nearly as much area as the short-range towers, but of course they can fire further afield. The healing tower costs 2 points, and that provides an AoE heal over time in a circle around it. These can be placed much closer to other structures than the other short and long-range towers. The barricade is exactly what it says. You can place an obstacle in lane for 2 utility points, and that will prevent minions from passing by it. The barricade does have a health bar and can be destroyed. One of the fun things about the barricade is that the front is flat, but the back is an incline. It kind of gives defenders a ramp to run off of. It's the mullet of Kingshunt. Tactics for defense were fairly straightforward. Just make sure you don't stack all your towers in the lane that the offense isn't pushing, and then defend them. Other than that, all you have to do is make sure you take down any banner bearers from the offense. I'll cover banners later. And throw down barricades to group up minions so that you can AoE them down or let your tower attacks clear them up. Being on the defending team pretty much assured a win. In fact, my only loss on defense is because 2 people got salty and left, so we were like 3v5. I'm not sure if it was unbalanced or just the defense tactics were far easier for an uncoordinated team to execute. The team on offense also had access to utility tokens, which could be earned by destroying defenses, killing heroes, or, again, just accruing over time. The offense tokens could be used to spawn minions in whatever lane you wanted. It could provide a damage boost for those minions, boost their defense, or you could spawn a banner bearer minion. The banner was an item that you could pick up and carry. It provided a sort of AoE force field that destroyed incoming tower shots. You could drop the banner at any time and it would stay in place if you died. If the defenders stayed close enough to the banner while it was on the ground, they could send it back to the start. Being on the attacking team was a bit rough, but not impossible if everyone worked together. Unfortunately, most of the teams I was on would ignore the towers in favor of chasing down kills, which left our minions vulnerable to the tower shots. And you need those minions. The Guardian was insanely strong. There's no way you could just group up with your team and take it down, while also weathering attacks from the defending team. If you wanted to win on offense, you needed to ram as many minions into the Guardian as possible and then buff their defense and attack. Destroying the towers was no easy task as they were defended by their own minions that hit like hard as hell. But once you destroyed a tower, that platform was no longer usable by the defense. So if you coordinated your attacks and used the banner effectively, you could essentially wipe out an entire lane's defensive options for good. I suppose you could also feign driving up one lane, then push your minions up the other, but this tactic seemed to be defeated pretty easy. I didn't see many people going with either option. It was usually just kind of a free-for-all of chasing defenders while the towers just destroyed the lanes. Before I talk about the heroes, I should probably cover the rune system, Kingshunt's item shop. The heroes didn't really have stats, so you didn't see the standard this item ups this stat sort of thing, but the items still kind of work the same way by increasing your health, damage output, stamina, and armor, along with some utility items that would lower cooldown or increase your movement speed at low health. Armor was kind of like extra health and would regenerate out of combat. You earned rune points much the same way you earned utility tokens, and they could be spent anywhere at any time. You could sell them back if you needed, but you would get less rune points than what you paid for them. I'm hoping for a far more robust rune shop in further iterations of the game. Now the fun part, the heroes. All heroes had a basic attack, 3 basic abilities, and 1 ultimate ability. The ultimate would charge over time and you could decrease the cooldown by dealing damage and healing, or at least it seemed that way to me. I'm not entirely sure about that. But if you ever played Overwatch, it's a lot like their ultimates. Each hero had health and armor along with a stamina bar, no mana to worry about. Stamina could be used to dodge, which also provided immunity frames, or you could use it to sprint. Kingshunt currently has 4 playable heroes, a tank, a healer, a ranged DPS, and a melee DPS. Let's talk about each one. Probably no surprise here, but my favorite was the healer named Legina something. Her basic attack was a pretty simple projectile. Her Q ability called Healing Winds would heal in an AoE. While the description doesn't mention that it heals minions, it does. E was called Blinding Light and functioned much like Phase's Blind from Paragon in that it actually blinded all players around her. Getting hit by this would make your screen go pitch black and then slowly fade back in. Her right click called First Aid was a simple heal on the targeted player. There was an arrow above the head of whomever was going to receive the heal, so you had to be a bit careful and make sure this was going on the correct person. Legina's ultimate, called Triliv, would steal health from enemies around her and give it to allies. While Legina is extremely lacking in offensive power, you did not want to forgo having a healer on your team. A good Legina was invaluable for both the PvE and PvP portions. I like to build her with increased stamina, stamina regen, and faster movement at low health. She was sorely outmatched in a 1v1 against the skilled player, so I would stay in the back lines healing my team, and then use my stamina to kind of dart in, blind, or AoE heal, then dart back out before I could be hit. All the while, I would just be tossing some basic attacks in there to help whittle people down. Next up is the tank, simply named Knight. He had a melee sword swing for his basic attack that would cleave. His Q was Valiant Leap and allowed you to jump to a targeted location and stun everyone around you. It was great as an engage tool or for just peeling people off of your squishier teammates. His E was Impenetrable Shield. You would raise your shield for a short period of time and completely negate any damage that would hit you from the front. This includes AoE abilities. Unless the source of the AoE was behind him, you could block the damage. His right click was inappropriately named Frenzied Combo. You would perform 3 strong swings of your sword, but they were kind of slow, and you had to time each one or the combo would cancel. Like, you had to swing, 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 kind of like that. And there was no indication for that timer. You just kind of had to get a feel for it. It was great for clearing minions or destroying towers, but I found that the frenzy portion wasn't nearly fast enough to hit anyone more than twice with it as fast as this game moves. The Knight's ultimate was called Aegis and would give everyone around him max armor. The Knight was a lot of fun to play. I tried to take runes that would increase his health and mitigate damage. I found the most effective way to play him was to leap to the enemy team, then shield up and eat as many abilities as possible, and then just kind of distract the enemies and be a general nuisance while my team cleaned up around me. Then we have what seemed to be the most overpowered hero, the Demigod, or as I called him, Oni Skin Chimera. His basic was a strong swing of his axe that cleaved. His Q, Call of the Axe, would pull all enemies from a cone in front of him just like Grux's Smash and Grab. This ability was great for stacking people up for cleave damage and setting up combos with the Enchantress. E was Shadow Rush. You could hold this down and Demigod would rush forward, and once released, all the enemies in a cone were like knocked back. The knockback distance decreased the longer you charged the ability. I think this would be great for cliffing people, and yes, you can knock people into pits for an insta-kill in some areas of the map, but I just wasn't good enough to line it up properly. His right click, Double Edge, would spin Oni Chimera around and deal damage twice, which was obviously good for heavy short-range AoE damage. His ultimate, called Might of the Axe, dealt huge damage in a cone in front of you and knocked enemies back. Demigod was great for clearing minions, defeating towers, or just killing people. Like I said, he was kinda OP. I liked building damage and armor for him so I could like hit and run delete people. What I at least attempted to do with him was charge in with his E, knock people back, then pull them in with his Q, spin the win on top of them, and then knock them back again with his ultimate. Kinda like a washing machine of death. The final hero is the Enchantress, a mage-style hero with some sweet cheeks. Her basic was a medium damage projectile. Her Q, called Curse Orb, would let you throw a targeted persistent AoE slow. It was good for, keeping fleeing enemies in range or to make a quick escape. Her E was Empower. This was an AoE attack speed increase. While you wanted to stay back and use her kinda as artillery for the most part, swooping in to give an attack speed buff was nice for taking down towers. Her bread and butter was her right click, called Charge Blast. Surprise, surprise, you charge it up and then launch the blast. Who would have guessed? The longer you charge this up, the harder it hit. And it seemed to me like the range increased as well. The blast did AoE damage, so you could sometimes catch people behind walls or around corners. The Enchantress's ultimate ability was simply called End. This was like a very large Gideon rock. A meteor would fall out of the sky and smash a large portion of the ground. At first, this thing was deleting people. However, the more I played, the more people figured out that you could just dodge at the last second to iframe the damage. This was still a devastating ability if you could catch people unawares or out of stamina. Also excellent when combined with Demigod's Grux Pool. I built damage increasing items on Enchantress along with cooldown reduction. I would usually hover behind the melee and bombard enemies with Charge Blast, and if pressured, I would throw down a Curse Orb to slow people, buff my attack speed, and just try to ping them down before they could reach me. If they did get to me, they were usually out of stamina and couldn't avoid the meteor. So there you have it, folks, my best attempt to break down a game that's in a genre all on its own. Kingshunt is a ton of fun if you're willing to adapt to something new and keep an open mind about the alpha state of the game. You can pre-order it now, however, I think you should probably just try to sign up for the alpha test and get in for free. If you like it, then go ahead and support Vaki Games by buying a copy. I hope you enjoyed the overview, but for now, this is the Mangoose signing off. You guys have a good one. Mangoose!